Okay, I just finished listening to the Joey Badass album, and it's interesting because I thought it was pretty good. I thought it was just good. I didn't think it was bad. I didn't think it was amazing. Um, it's interesting because the album had a lot of hype considering the beef that was going on with Joey and fucking the whole West Coast, which he was hoping to ride up until the date of this album, but then it got delayed and the hype died. It was like it got complicated for Cuz. We didn't know if this album was gonna drop at all, but it dropped. It's here. I thought it was good, not groundbreaking, nowhere near one of the better rap albums of the year. I think it's smack dab in the middle. I will say if you want an album with a similar vibe with better raps in about the same length in track list, I would recommend the Marco Plus album. Marco Plus versus the Underworld. It's a similar vibe and it's much better. It's like if you're looking for a great, like a fucking awesome 8 out of 10, there's better albums this year that have dropped that did a better job than this. The only difference is that Joey Badass is much more of a high profile rapper, obviously, right? So that's why we're even aware that this album was dropping. He had the beef. He's been around for a while. Wouldn't say he's the best at what this album tried to do, but I did think it was interesting that this is very much a New York album. We were talking about it, Chad and I over here, you know what I'm saying? Twitch.tv/PottyMouth streams if you want to join us every Thursday at 11 p.m. We were just discussing that this album actually felt really regional to the New York sound. Like he has a couple of songs. He has like the Jadakiss type of fucking a song. He has a Fabulous type beat on here. A lot of rapping, a lot of like fucking Static Selecta is the most New York producer of all time. All of these things are combining this like effort to create the most hip hop, like New York hip hop album possible. And I think if that's the goal, I think he succeeded. I think there's songs that Joe Budden is gonna love. Facts. Joe Budden is gonna love some of the songs on this album. But so if that's what he was going for, he's gonna accomplish it. He's accomplished it. I don't know if that means that all of us are gonna love it. But I will say the regional part of that is interesting because the moment I started to think about all the albums from rappers that are digging into their sounds or digging into their region's sound as of late, then it becomes pretty interesting. Like, you know, obviously GNX is probably the biggest example of a rapper like Kendrick Lamar, who is one of the rap superstars, digging into a very niche sound. The West Coast sound hasn't been popular since dare I say the 90s. Like it hasn't really progressed or been popular. So him doubling down on that was significant. But you've seen people such as even recently this summer, Metro Boomin with that Atlanta, like was it like early 2000s, late 2000s, whatever that era was, locking in on that sound. You've had JID, which a lot of people said felt like an ode to Atlanta, not necessarily a specific time and place in Atlanta like in the past, but it just felt like an Atlanta album. Same thing with Chance recently, who I think still has my favorite mainstream rap album of the year. Chance has it. Starline is my favorite album of the year so far, if you're talking about it like that. That's very much a Chicago album. Even outside of rap, even if you go like the R&B Toronto sound, Drake did that with Some Sexy Songs for You. Cardi right now is doing something kind of like that, but it's like a mix of that Atlanta sound with him pushing and evolving his own sound that he did with Whole Lotta Red. So there's a lot of artists that are, I think, locking into the regional sound. Shout out to Demi from the Demi Show on YouTube. Check that YouTube channel out. She was pointing out that maybe GNX maybe didn't start that trend, but it was actually more like hip hop media pushing that narrative of like we should go back to regional sounds. And that for sure is a talking point that I've heard in the past couple of years. I don't think that's inherently bad, but I don't think that's the fix to make hip hop the way that people are, you know, yearning for it to be as they once knew it. Like, I don't think that's the case, especially nowadays on the internet and the way hip hop has evolved. Like, even though the Metro Boomin album was accurate to what that sound was, that shit sold like 20K. Nobody gave a fuck about it. It truly. Nobody cared. Let anybody under 25 listen to that Metro Boomin album. They wouldn't know what the fuck is going on. So that's not necessarily a good thing. I think it's a worthy creative risk to take. But I don't think that necessarily means that hip hop is getting healthy again, or like the hip hop is going back to how it should be. Because I don't think we can go back regional. And going back regional does not even guarantee a good album. So that's how I feel about it. I think for Joey, I think it helped cement his narrative that he wants to be the best rapper from New York. Like he wants the crown of best rapper in New York, like the king of New York. This album does a lot for those narratives, but also now in our current state, being the king of New York means fucking nothing. Like it means absolutely zero. So, you know, there's like the way to look at it, what he wanted to accomplish. I think he accomplished it. I think there's better albums that are in the same vein. Again, the Marco Plus album. But on a larger scale, I don't think this album is really moving the needle in any way, shape, or form, honestly. Anyways, let me hear your thoughts real quick. I wasn't reading chat right now, but I want to hear what you guys are saying. How did you guys feel about this album? Let me open it up to y'all. The original take seemed like an anti-Drake take, but some of these hip-hop artists might have taken it to heart. The regional take seemed like an anti-Drake take, but some of these hip-hop artists might have taken it to heart. Well, okay, yeah. I mean, I would say even Drake took it to heart in some way because he was like, because a lot of the criticism that Drake was getting was that what sound has Drake pioneered in the midst of like the great civil rap beef of fucking 2024? People were like, what sound has Drake even pioneered? And I think Some Sexy Songs for You was like this sound. It's a very specific sound that I pioneered. So even Drake took it to heart. But clearly all these other rappers have as well. It's an interesting trend that I'm noticing. I don't know if it means anything. I don't know if it's going to mean the shit is great, but regardless. I still like Mike over Joey. Like as King of New York, like Mike, it's not a bad take. Nothing special. I agree with Lince. I agree with you, Lince. It's nothing crazy. 6.5 out of 11. Barely over, you know, halfway. It's fine. I think Joey's album was fine to good. Nothing revolutionary or mind-bending, but he did better than my expectations, so I'm overall positive. I don't know why people thought it was going to be bad. I really didn't think this album would be bad, especially the length and I think what he was trying to prove. I didn't think it would be bad. I don't like the regional stuff necessarily. I think it limits your ability to be experimental. Facts. Absolutely. I agree. I think that's the beauty of like a lot of the music that we're getting now is that people from different parts of the world, fuck the US, the world can hear these sounds and implement them into their music and make it better. Drake can, and everybody followed suit. Drake did okay, like Drake did regional. By the way, that makes sense, Kyler, because those are the two biggest rappers. People are gonna follow trend after the two biggest rappers do that shit. I was disappointed after 2000, his last album, so I thought, yeah, 2000 I didn't hate. It was fine. Maybe there's a bigger conversation that like after 1999 or maybe even prior, maybe his 1999 and maybe Before the Money. Has he even dropped a good album? Is Joey Badass the most overrated rapper of all time simply of coasting off like maybe a classic mixtape and maybe a classic album in the early 2010s and never doing anything good after that? Like that's a good point. It's only been fine albums. I think All American Badass was fine. I think 2000 was fine, and now this is fine. That's a good point. He shows flashes, but he can't sustain it. By the way, this is something I said, or something I meant to say on the review. Maybe I'll edit this part into the review. I don't know, but even though it was a New York album, it was still interesting that there were so many comparisons to other better artists that you can immediately hear, like a Kendrick and like a Jid. You're like, that sounds Kendricky. That sounds Jid-ish. And then you're like, on one hand, I'm like, nothing wrong with seeing, being influenced by those great rappers, great artists, if you want to get your music better. But in the other way, if I look at it cynically, I'm like, does he have to lean into what those guys do in terms of their sound because he doesn't really have a sound of his own? Does he have an album? Does he have a formula? Does he have a way of crafting albums that he can like hone in on? I don't think so. And that goes to my point about, does he only make fine albums? I don't know. That's so interesting. I don't know. Because I do think it made the album better. Let's say if he is just copying Kendrick and Jid. I will say it helped the album. Like, it made the album better, so that's good. But maybe that speaks on what your artist identity is and how much of it is lacking in the big fucking 25. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, the discography is not vicious at all. That discography is not vicious at all. 1999 was his peak, but I think it had a lot to do with the energy, not necessarily skill. And also he was young too, and expectations and the time of it dropping, like that reclamation of the 90s rap. At the time that it dropped, it was like a fun pastiche. But then, you know, Griselda came about. So it's like, now, you know, the pastiche was rehashed yet again, and so now what's your niche in rap? I don't know.
Potty mouth. Stop playing.
Well, hello, Potty Mouth.